the River Mourne near Mansfield, feeding into Kingsmill Reservoir. Portland Viaduct, crossing the river, is the oldest railway viaduct in England. Calm, tranquil, but not for long.
I've been wondering what it is.
So judging will take place about 2:10 on the marketplace there. There's even a cash bar.
What is a crowd of people with dogs, little flags, a few even in fancy dress? What are they doing on Portland Viaduct? It must be something very special, and it is.
Now, the oldest continuously running railway in England turned 200 years old today. The Mansfield and Pinxton line was opened in 1819 to export Derbyshire's coal to Nottinghamshire. It also features the oldest railway viaduct in England. Celebrations recreating the original opening took place across the town today.
Anybody? Anybody got to carry? Excellent, look at this, wonderful. You don't have to carry it all the way, you know, but just to maybe get on photographs. There you go.
Bang, 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 march.
Yes, we're celebrating, beginning with the procession from Portland Viaduct and tracing part of the route of the little railway. Over Sheepbridge Lane and down into Mansfield. It's a day of celebration that's also the start of a whole year of other events and activities. We'll see something of those later. A lot of the people marching today are members of local archaeological and history groups, and other interested folk have joined them for the occasion. The motto, "By perseverance we obtained," was coined back in the early 1800s. What they obtained, of course, was the new railway. The pace hots up as the procession approaches Mansfield Station. They're gathering in front of the station. That's right, keep waving. The station dates from over 50 years after the M&P started, but a lot of the railway's developments took place here.
So, yeah, whenever you're ready, if you want to join the photograph group, so we're just leaving the hands of the photographers for a while.
Dennis Hill is doing well with the Loudhailer. Well, after all, he is president of the Caribbean District Archaeological Group, and he's organised this event and the 4 years commemoration project. 200 years ago today, the horse-drawn wagons brought the first load of much-needed coal from the mine at Pinxton to the mills and factories of Mansfield. The municipal dignitaries are suitably important in their chains. The dogs don't seem impressed, but excitement is definitely building among the humans. Now the scene moves to the marketplace as the procession follows the route of their predecessors 200 years ago. The viaduct wasn't there in 1819, of course. There's the token barrow load of coal at the front. In 1819 they lit the coal as part of the ceremonies, but with today's health and safety rules that's not going to happen now. The procession joins other people already waiting in the marketplace, and the air of expectation grows. It was the perseverance of those railway pioneers that enabled Mansfield's mills to develop and local industry to grow. And for the first time it brought rail travel to local people. Yes, let's check the time. There's a full programme of events throughout the day. We'll start obtaining in just a minute, while the Mansfield banner-waving Queen gets into her stride. He's dying to light that coal. Here's a section of the original line and a so-called padstone to which it was anchored, and a lovely model of Portland Viaduct where today's celebrations started. You can have a commemoration mug and pen, giveaway sweets, and of course lots of banners. Now it's the turn of the Saints Ukulele Group to provide the music. The result of the fancy dress competition is introduced by Councillor Kate Alsop, at that time the Mayor of Mansfield.
Fantastic entertainment to follow, so So enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
I think they've done a fine job here, fitting in well to the period of time.
There are 6 prizes and 6 contestants.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Well done. Congratulations.
So, Madam Mayor, what do you think of today?
Today has been absolutely inspiring. 200 years ago, what a long time. And to think that people walked the very same route we've walked today and done exactly the same thing. Bands, they sang God Save the King 200 years ago. I hope we have a rendition of God Save the Queen, and I hope we have the hurrahs that follow.
For the closing stage of this day of celebration, appropriately, a move into the Swan Inn. Appropriate because many of the lunchtime meetings that shaped the Mansfield and Pinxton Railway Company were held here. Not in the conservatory and doubtless not buffet style, but it does create a nice link with those important days for Mansfield 200 years ago. Chris Austin recalls a later part of the story.
Quite a milestone in railway history. My involvement only goes back 30 years to 1989, when as BR's Parliamentary Affairs Manager I was involved in getting the parliamentary powers to put the track back between Kirkby and Linby through the tunnel. And I remember going there in 89 and seeing the cutting filled in and the tunnel sealed off. But it happened, and the place looks much better now. Mansfield is better served. It's no longer the largest town in England without a railway. So congratulations to everybody that's been involved in that and in marking the celebration. And here's to the next 200 years of the Mansfield Railway.
As well as this day of celebration, the Kirkby Archaeological Group planned a number of projects designed to inform the general public about the Mansfield and Pinxton Railway over the following months, and we're going to look at just a few. For a start, today's exhibition toured local libraries for a whole year and was seen by hundreds of people. They've obviously had a lot of practice.
So far, and the libraries we've been in, the biggest space that we've had.
Oh yes,
if it ever goes ahead. Yeah. So they're trying to get this bottom part. Yeah. So they're trying to get that opened up. But what they're also doing, the Mansfield. I don't know. I'm not
it's all intact.
Really?
Yeah. Tunnels are still there. It's swanky.
They do then send random trains round that way. Yeah, so I've been here. Yeah, it's really
Meanwhile, several exploratory digs were organised. The first was in Kirkby, and Jan Barlow is one of the group members learning the archaeological techniques. Jan, tell us why this site was chosen.
We've decided to come here because it's a nice flat surface. There's not that much vegetation. Therefore, it's a nice training environment to learn how to do probing correctly and measure it out and put the probe into the ground. Plus, we're on a perfect alignment with where the old line used to run through from Portland Park up to the summit, which is behind us.
It would, wouldn't it, actually? Yes.
So you can see where the M&P originally ran.
Yes, you can. It runs directly at the side of Reddish's electrical store down there and through down into the quarries at the side of the River Erywash.
What were you hoping to find?
Probably a lot of rubble, but we would like to find the padstones that are about 12 inches by 12 inches by about 8 inches deep, set at about 3 foot intervals across the line and about 2 foot 18 inches between each rail.
It's all worthwhile.
And what have you actually found?
We have found some hard surfaces. We don't think they're padstones, but we're going to come back in October and excavate with Trent Peak Archaeology and have a proper look. And then from that, one of the actual things that we wanted to do, part of the Heritage Lottery funding, was to see how it was made up, what different layers went to make up the actual base of the Pinxton Mansfield Railway.
OK, thank you, Jan. Happy digging. Meanwhile, another more elaborate exploration is underway on the so-called Western Embankment, close to Portland Park. This is started by members of the group.
Axor didn't grindstone, they did the archaeologists.
Brick. Oh, like a sandstone colour.
I'm doing claims.
We just started digging here yesterday, and this is what we found. And what we're trying to work out now is whether this is the actual layer on which the horses pulled the wagons on rails, or whether we've got to dig deeper to find something more original.
Well, Laura Parker from Trent Peak Archaeology can explain what they found.
Okay, so what we have here, we have the topsoil that's going to be quite modern, running across the top of the entire trench. Then if I go further down, we've got this large band of clay running straight through here, and we think that this is the embankment of the railway. Before we took all of this clay down, we actually found a band of stones that you can see in the section here. They ended around about here, and then the clay carried on. We think that those bands of stone have something to do with the structure of the top of the railway itself. We do have patches of stones continuing through these layers of clay. So what might have happened is they have built up the layers of clay with stones in them, so that as the embankment is used and is rolled over by the wagons and the horses, it's possible that they've packed it out with a bit more stone so that it doesn't sink so much when the weight is put on it. So we've got all this thick clay. It looks like all of this clay has been brought in by hand 200 years ago, so it doesn't seem like it's a natural layer, and it's been packed out with stones and then capped with stones to secure the structure.
To clean it up, just that corner, here it's like pure subsoil. Really? It's sort of sat on top of the natural.
Not far away on the eastern embankment, also part of the original route, group members are doing more exploration. And taking advantage of the educational opportunities.
And also those little tracks that we were just showing you, they were not strong enough for the steam engines. The steam engines would have broken them. So they made a new line, which is the one that you see behind you.
A man of many parts is Dennis. Another important part of the programme was to set up walks that the public will be able to enjoy using the self-guiding booklets being published. Members of the group give practical help with planning by walking the proposed routes. This one is heading initially for Mill Lane.
We're just looking to work out where the mill that the road takes its name from was.
The group continues on Mill Lane. Their destination is Portland Park.
So the route that came from Jacksdale to Portland Colliery number 1, so that came along here and down into the bottom of the valley.
Because I think this is really a track of where because this is the corner of Kirkby.
Yeah, but saying it was that height, to get from there up to where the pile now, it's quite steep to...
Yes, I don't think it does.
At the top of the hill, they're not far from the park now. There are several interesting information boards. This one shows all the different railways that eventually followed the M&P and ran through the park. The Cafe Garden occupies part of the site of a quarry that was very active in Victorian times. The stone was hauled away by the M&P trucks out to the canal wharf at Pinxton. The park is also an important conservation area. Now Trevor Lewis, secretary of the Kirkby Group, explains the walks programme.
Just completed the fourth of our walks, and we're aiming to walk as closely to the line as possible as part of our celebration of the 200 years of the Mansfield to Pinxton Railway. We can't always walk very close to it, but we get a good idea of the countryside that it passed through. The other aim of the walks that we're organising and planning is to make them available to the public, so that schools and the public generally can take advantage of what we've learnt about the line, about the landscape, and about the historical features that surround it.
It sounds good. So let's join the next walk. For this one, members of the general public are able to join the group, heading for Mansfield and as far as possible tracing the route of the M&P. Alongside Sutton Parkway Station, This was probably the first bridge to be built over the original railway. It carries the lane leading to Kirkby Hardwick Manor. And we're back on Portland Viaduct, of course.
So we're actually standing on the original track bed of the 1819 railway at this point. And one thing we will point out is the width of it. We believe it was the first double-tracked railway between two towns that ran all the way from one town to another. It was only the 6th Act of Parliament passed to produce a railway, and all the other 5 before it were single track with passing points along it. Hence, that's why it's quite so wide.
Leaving the viaduct, the new bridge crosses the modern line looking towards Mansfield. So, where have we walked, Dennis?
There to there, we're following all the way there, just opposite. But that adds a quarter of a mile long, going up over that bridge, I'll admit that.
Can't measure all these wiggles, haven't I?
No. But that, from there to there is approximately 2.2 miles.
Mansfield Station today is much as when it was built in the 1870s, but in the intervening years it saw 3 passenger platforms with a large glass roof, loco sheds, numerous coal sidings and several freight yards. All gone now, of course. So to the start of the next walk. As we know, the railway was built to link Mansfield with the canal wharf here. And it was the landlord of the boat inn who introduced the first passenger wagons.
We've split it into 3 sections, this walk. It's about between 7.5 8 miles in length altogether, as the crow flies. So we split it into 3. And there will be a walk leaflet coming out within the next few months, which does split it into 3. If you're brave enough, you can do it all in one day, which I'm sure is quite possible for those that are ardent walkers.
Been worried about the young, what appear to be schoolgirls who appear in our front library.
We're near the modern line now. It follows the old M&P route quite closely. And we're heading for the M1 motorway. With the motorway behind us, we're now in an area that the old track passed through. Later developments by Midland Railway and others enabled wharfs and sidings to be built to serve the many collieries that were being sunk. We pass under bridges that carried sidings to the Bentinck Colliery. Mud, an occupational hazard for walkers. But we're not far now from our destination, another visit to Portland Park. And we're crossing the present day line, which deviates from the M&P route. When a new track was laid in the 1840s and early 50s, it was designed for steam locomotives. They needed gentler curves than the horse-drawn wagons, and the modern line follows pretty much the same course. And so, from the walks to information boards, 7 have been located at key positions along the M&P route. They give details and illustrations showing the specific local relevance of the original horse-drawn trackway and the developments that have followed. Boards are a good way of conveying information, and this is another, the book. There's more about it in the programme that follows this one. 100 pages using maps, diagrams and archive photos to tell the story of the railway's 9 stages of development from its inception to the present day over 2 vibrant centuries.
It is my pleasure to welcome you to the grand launch of our book, Video and Education Pack, which details the history of the Mansfield Pinxton Railway, which is the oldest continuously running commercial railway in all of England. Sadly, due to the COVID situation, we have not been able to join together for a launch. I say sadly because we had planned to have a buffet and entertainment. And besides that, it's always nice to be able to socialise and enjoy one another's company and successes. Speaking to you as the project officer, it has been a delight to work with so many interesting people over the past couple of years and to research the history of this particular railway. As an historian, it has been my first time of researching railway history, and I have come to understand why there are so many railway enthusiasts. It has been a truly fascinating and enjoyable experience. I've been able to work closely with friends that I've known for many years and make new friends. Hundreds of hours of work have been put into this project. Every hour spent has been appreciated and needed. I'm sure that some of the volunteers have long since lost count of how many hours they have spent on this project. The whole project has been spearheaded by a partnership consisting of the Kirkby and District Archaeological Group, the Old Mansfield Society, the Sutton Heritage Society and the Pinxton and South Normanton Local History Society. They were joined by several railway historians. Between them, they managed to attract a substantial lottery fund grant to celebrate, promote and immortalise this piece of English heritage that so few people actually know about. Over the next few years, we hope that through the work that we have done in this project, the Mansfield Pinxton Railway will become more well known and take its place in the history books of England, Britain and even the world. I will now hand over to Pam Lewis, who is the chair of the Kirkby and District Archaeological Group and who has been a stalwart volunteer in this project. She, along with her husband Trevor, were generous enough to open up their home for regular meetings over a period of about 3 years, sometimes several meetings in 1 week, always treating us with drinks and cakes. Over to you, Pam.
Hello everyone. Working with this project has certainly made sure that Trevor and I have been kept busy. Although it's been hard work, this project has been essential to preserve a very important piece of history that sits right on our doorsteps here in Ashfield, Mansfield and Pinxton. Our aim was to discover all we could about the story of the line and make that knowledge widely available, not just to railway enthusiasts, by every means we could. Above all, we needed to make sure that the actual 200th anniversary of the Mansfield and Pinxton Railway was properly celebrated in April 2019 and used to attract the attention of the media, who in turn were able to spread the word for us. This was a great success, and we owe a lot of thanks to all those who made the event so special, through organising, hosting, entertaining, or simply by just being there to help us celebrate. Over to you, Trevor.
Hello everyone. Quite apart from that day of celebration, we've achieved a remarkably long list of other aims. Please bear with me while I work my way through them. Dennis is going to help out with plenty of relevant pictures. Well, what have we done? We've created a touring exhibition which toured the area for just over a year. We produced memorabilia, including mugs, pens, postcards and flags, and the artwork on the flags was produced by children from the Orchard Primary School in Kirkby and Ashfield. We've engaged with several schools. We've presented several lectures to community groups. We've researched and created a heritage walk close to the original route. And we've written and installed 7 heritage information boards along the route between Pinxton and Mansfield. We've written a 40-page self-guiding walk booklet that highlights 49 heritage sites along the trail. 10,000 copies have been printed and we still have plenty left. We did manage to complete 3 guided walks before COVID prevented us from running any more. We conducted a few oral history interviews. We commissioned 2 scale models of aspects of the railway, depicting Kingsmill Viaduct and also the junction to Bentinck Colliery with the signal box. We worked with Ashfield District Council, who have been running another lottery-funded project which focused on the Kingsmill Reservoir, and we have produced an education pack for primary schools to encourage them to discuss this heritage in their curriculum and use it as a case study for several topics such as history, maths, science and geography. We've been running a Facebook page about the project, and we've created a website that will be around for years to come for anyone to learn about this important piece of English history. In November last year, we ran an archaeological excavation to cut through the original track bed so that we could discover just how those engineers from the early 1800s constructed a groundbreaking and long-lasting railway. We've been blessed with having the services of a small team of very good volunteer filmmakers who have spent endless hours producing a documentary film about the railway, which can be seen on YouTube. We have a few copies of the film on DVD, which we're making available to special interest groups, so please contact us if you would like a copy. That same video team has also produced a video diary of the project, which will also be found on YouTube. Nearly last, and by no means least, we've produced a book that tells the full 200-year story of the Mansfield and Pinxton Railway. We have copies available if you would like to contact us for one. However, that is not quite all. As a last-minute gesture, we were able to publish a booklet of poetry for the Kirkby Living Memory Group that remembers life in the Kirkby Loco Sheds, which closed down 50 years ago. Over to you, Pam.
As you can see, we've been extremely busy, and everyone involved deserves both appreciation and a good rest. Our most important decision was to appoint Dennis Hill as the project officer. Without him, we would not have gained the HLF funding, and it is his local knowledge and remarkable range of skills that have made these achievements possible. As the chair of the Kirkby District Archaeological Group, I would like to express my appreciation to all those who have put many hours of hard work into the project. We have achieved many things to celebrate this wonderful railway, and we should all be very proud of what we have done. It will be remembered and used for decades to come. I would also like to thank the National Lottery Heritage Fund for awarding a grant to us, which enabled all these things to be achieved. Thanks also go to all those who play the National Lottery. Without them, this project would not have been possible. I'll now hand over to Gloria Di Prero, former MP for Ashfield and a supporter of the project from the start, to say a few words and launch our final products. Over to you, Gloria.
Thank you, Pam. I'm Gloria Di Piero. I used to be the Member of Parliament for Ashfield, and I was able to support this project enthusiastically, and I managed to look in on the archaeological excavations in Portland Park last October. What a remarkable set of achievements had been made by this dedicated group of volunteers. What an amazing piece of heritage we've been able to celebrate sitting on our doorstep. So I'd like to add my thanks and appreciation to all those who've been involved in the project. You have done a wonderful job. You should be so proud of what you have done for our communities. Thanks to what you have done, something that many of us wouldn't have known much about, but now our eyes have been opened. Pam and Trevor has given us a full list of what has been achieved. My task is to officially launch the 3 final achievements. First, this brilliant book, hardbound book entitled The Story of the Mansfield and Pinxton Railway, celebrating 200 years of England's oldest continuously running commercial railway. It tells the full 200-year history. It's a really great book. Secondly, a video that outlines the same story that's available on YouTube under the title Mansfield and Pinxton Railway, The Way to Prosperity. There's also a limited number of DVDs. Thirdly, there's an education pack produced in partnership with Ashfield District Council, designed for use in primary schools. All have been produced to a very high standard, so I take great pleasure in launching these 3 things. They're going to continue to educate us about a remarkable local achievement of which we should be very proud. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.